Welcome back, gamers, to another fluffy video. Just a normal one for today. Gotta take a break from the recent style of content, let's call it that. I mean, imagine having to take a break from making shit posts. Soup time! I love making Warframe videos that helps you boys and girls out there to overcome the oftentimes crippling grind in this game. Necramech parts farming and leveling is arguably one of the worst right now, not gonna lie. It's a little better since the recent hotfixes. You shouldn't be losing Affinity for no reason, but that doesn't change the fact that leveling weapons and warframes, especially in this game, is such a terrible experience. I get that you gotta put some grind and effort in to get rewarded with something nice, even in video games, but my god, imagine spending hours or even days putting Forma into a frame like Zaku and finding out they don't scale too well in Steel Path missions. It's just an example, and I don't spend that kind of time leveling up stuff anymore. I'm lucky enough to have great people in the server who are willing to help me speed through multiple Adaro runs in a relatively short period of time. And that's why this video exists. We are going to be discussing some of the best ways to level your Necramech and talk about how you could easily improve upon my own strategy to potentially get your runs done much faster than 30 minutes. I know the intro's sort of long and windy. Sorry guys, I kinda need to hit 10 minutes here. Timestamps are in the description though, as always, so feel free to skip through to the parts that matter to you. I've heard and read about plenty of horror stories regarding Necramech leveling. Absolutely ridiculous things where you had to let the cornbot die in order to cash in the affinity, if you will. Others reported actually losing affinity in this manner, and when host migrations occurred, well, host migrations are almost always bad news, so no surprise there. But I can clarify that those issues have been resolved in the recent hotfixes, and I've done many hours of Necramech leveling, haven't ran into any issues. Of course, I did them solo, can't speak for pub squads or tell what would happen if you got hit by host migrations again. If any of you guys are still having issues with regards to affinity not registering on your Necramechs when you extract, please do let me know down in the comments. I've researched and tested plenty of methods for leveling the Necramech, and my conclusion is, if you don't have any other priorities or tasks you'd like to complete alongside the process of leveling your Necramech, flying around the Orb Vallis, taking over Corpus bases, if you will, is probably going to be the fastest way for most of you. And let me explain in just a bit why that is and how you can probably get it done a lot faster than the 30 minutes or so that I managed. The first obvious thing I tried was Steel Path deimos bounties with a friend to help carry me through. Now this guide is going to be focused on solo strategies, but if you can manage to convince a friend to help out, it does give you a few options that may be better. I do highly recommend against doing Steel Path bounty solo, especially deimos ones, because trust me, these guys are meant to be dealt with by a decent team of 2 or 3 players at least. There's no need to feel bad if you can't exactly do the Steel Path bounties alone. It's not impossible. I've done it, but you probably don't want to do it with a Necramech, especially one that's fresh from the foundry. The affinity gain wasn't really great actually, and was kind of comparable to doing vault runs, about 57 to 58k points with another 80k points bonus on top. I didn't really take screenshots throughout testing as I thought it was sort of pointless. None of this is scientific, really. It's just me sharing my opinions and thoughts. You can't control how the enemies respond and how much of them respond. Your results may vary and vary greatly, and that's okay. If you enjoy doing vault runs, that's great. I personally did not like doing vault runs as you couldn't spawn the Necramech when you go underground, and it was just problematic trying to navigate through efficiently and not hold back your teammates. Also, Infested give the least affinity comparatively to other factions, so there's also that. Then I thought, well, what about Cetus Steel Path bounties, or maybe going around fucking with their bases? That idea only lasted for about 5 seconds, because as soon as I realized that possibly having to deal with a level 100 Steel Path Tusk Thumper, that's just not something rational to do. You really don't want to meet one of these boys when doing Steel Path bounties. And that leaves us with the last open world tileset realm, or Vallis, or Fortuna, even though those words aren't really interchangeable, but nobody cares. First thing I tried out here was heading straight for the Temple of Prophet, ya old toroid farming location. It didn't turn out as well as I thought it would, because enemy spawns were out of whack for some reason. Some were spawning too far out of line of sight, some of them were running into walls. The transmitters didn't seem to work at times, so even on alert level 4 it was fairly quiet, and the amount of affinity gained after 10 minutes was about half than when I did vault runs with 2 other players. Then I tried invading the other Corpus bases with the comm systems, and this finally gave me the best result. About 80k affinity with over 110k in bonus in about 10 to 12 minutes. Again, none of these results are scientific. I could have tried recording an average, but there's just way too many variables here. I firmly believe that this is the fastest way to level the Necramech, at least in solo mode, and at least until DE allows us to use the Necramech in star chart missions, which, let's be honest, is never gonna happen. With that said though, I have not had the time to personally test the potential affinity gain in phase 2 of the Profit Taker heist. If anyone has done that mission and managed to max your Necramech rank in 30 minutes or less, please do let me know down in the comments. I'd appreciate that a lot. So now that we know our preferred method for Necramech affinity farming, next comes the prep work. Preparation is important, just ask Batman. Without prep, he'd be like any one of us and probably out there fighting a riot or something for his mask rights. I don't know. You don't need anything special when it comes to Warframes, but I really like Trinity because her 4 insta-heals both the Necramech and the comm systems that you'll be defending. It's pretty neat. This is an Eidolon build that I was too lazy to switch out, but it works perfectly fine. You could go with less duration and a bit more strength maybe, but it's almost not worth it. As far as weapons go, just bring your favorite melee and leave it at that. The less stuff we have that could potentially suck on the total affinity gained, the more of that affinity gets distributed to your Necramech, or so I believe. I'll admit that I don't have concrete proof of how Necramech affinity behaves or gets calculated, but that's the way I've done it. Now, the most important thing for leveling your Necramech is your Mausolon. Don't bother spawning the Necramech if you're not willing to spend a catalyst on its primary weapon. Please make sure your Mausolon is up to spec and has a decent build on it. If you don't have it ranked in 4 mud sufficiently, equip the thing and go do some Arquig missions if you have to. Your Mausolon needs to be good. Or you could swap it out for some other arc guns with a Gravimag on it, of course. Once that's taken care of, get as much health and shield and armor if possible on your Necramech. Use a reactor if you must, it's worth it. Every other mod is just a bonus for convenience. Finally, an affinity booster. Buy one. Look, I know how you guys feel about spending plat. This is not cheating in any way, shape, or form. It's an affinity booster. If you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you value your time spent in Warframe and don't want to waste it leveling stuff so you can get to doing the other stuff that you actually want to do. 40p is nothing compared to the time you'll save. Usually with weapons, a 10-minute run on Hydron ain't too big of a deal, but with leveling Necramechs, you're gonna want all the help you can get. Please do yourself a favor and spend a little bit of plats to save time. With the prep all done, now we gotta invade them Corpus bases, and these are the locations I've marked for you on the map. They're basically all the bases that don't have toroids in the drop table, so not too difficult to memorize or make a mental image of. Another thing that I should mention is that you can only hold one base at a time, so if you manage to capture Transit Depot, for example, and then proceed to hijack the comm systems over in the Orican dig site, you'll lose control of the previous area. And this is actually good because we can simply do a continuous run between 2 chosen bases. From the map, it would make sense to pick the 2 closest locations between the 3 that are in the middle, but I kinda don't like how the enemies approach you over in Grow site. Feels too open and exposed to fire from all directions, so I chose to alternate between Temple Fabrication and Central Maintenance. It's personal preference, and you should definitely choose what works for you. The first thing you do as soon as you land near one of these bases is of course spawn in the Necramech. Having it set to a hotkey helps a lot. Don't spin through the gear wheel like I do, it'll drive you insane. Proceed to look for the datamask key with your Mausolon or preferred arc gun, switch out, insert key, hit 4 with Trinity even though it's not really needed, and have fun shooting the Corpus enemies that can't seem to do anything to counter your sheer heft and firepower. I like the area in Temple Fabrication because you sometimes get coil drives driving by and shooting them. Watching them explode is pretty fun, and they do give you a bit of affinity as well. Definitely try to use your abilities as much as possible during your stints. Using your 4 when it becomes available is a good idea as you can rake up ability kills, but I personally don't like how that mode feels, so I didn't bother to activate that mode even once during my runs. Also, it goes without saying that those transmitters that the Corpus boys put down, yeah, try your best not to shoot that. In theory, it should increase the enemy spawns, but I couldn't help but shooting them to bits. I just shoot impulsively in Warframe these days, and some of the members in the Discord server share that. But yeah, even without doing any of the stuff I advised you to, other than continuous Corpus base invasions, I managed to max my Necramech in 35 minutes. Okay, I know it's not 30 minutes exactly, but I hope I've managed to convince you on how easy it is to improve upon that time. By doing more optimized runs and just having one other person to help you out would cut that time down by a lot. I just have a feeling that there's gonna be rants in the comment section. You know what? It doesn't even have to be constructive towards the video itself. If it helps other players out in general, I'm sure to acknowledge it or even pin the comment, so feel free to share your own thoughts and experiences down below. Expect more videos real soon. In the meantime, check out some of the shitposts. I really can't sell myself well these days. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys real soon in the next video.